Welcome back to the Growth Hack Franchise Marketing Unleashed. I'm your host, Marcus, founder of AdCloud. And today we're doing something a little different. We're going to talk about how marketing isn't a luxury, it's a lifeline. Because I've seen too many times where business owners cut their marketing budget the minute things get tight. And guess what? That usually is the exact moment you need to double down on visibility. So if you've ever thought, let's just pause ads for a bit, this episode is for you. And of course, I've got Mckenzie with me, our creative director.
Okay, Marcus, let's just start here. Why is cutting marketing always the first thing people do when money's tight? Like, you wouldn't just stop telling people that your business exists on purpose. So, why does this happen?
I think it's because it's the least disruptive on the outside. When you think about all of that, it's way easier to cut marketing spend than to tell a staff member not to come in, right? To fire somebody and have to deal with the emotional state. I think naturally as humans, we go to the lowest barrier of entry, lowest point of contact, and it's oftentimes the fastest return. If you're like bleeding revenue and you're like, gosh, I need to save money, the easiest thing to do is to turn off the faucet, right? And say, okay, I'm going to turn this off because I'm spending daily on these ads and now I can start saving daily. When you do that, you now are turning off the faucet that is driving whatever business growth you currently have. That is your primary driver. I don't care whether you think that your clients fell from the sky. There's so many business owners who are like, oh, they came in from this boost I did. Look, I'm not saying they're wrong. When you think about like marketing, you might need to look at, hey, do I need to cut in other areas? Or can my marketing be better and drive more? Am I marketing in the right places as well?
So, I know that you always say marketing isn't an expense, it's fuel for your business. Can you explain that for the people in the back who just slashed their ad spend and are wondering why things are suddenly quiet? Because we know when marketing goes off, the silence
Mhm.
is loud.
I always refer to like when we talk with clients and like it's an investment. This is not like a get rich quick scheme. So many come in thinking that they're like, hey, 30 days, like we need to be break even. And that's just not realistic. You've got to play a marathon game when it comes to marketing and ad spend. And it is a long term investment. You've got to hold them and really hope that there is this long term strategy, not like this quick. And I've been involved in many of those where it's we dump in $10,000 this month, we should see like this is going to get us to the place that we need to be. And what you often find is that you pour that in and then you just lose $10,000 and hopefully gain some data, but it's not always one to one in the early days. It takes a lot of time to learn. And so awareness is number one. And that is your first point of contact, making people aware, getting them to ultimately make the decision to like your page, follow your page, hopefully book an appointment. Then you've got to get them in the door, number 3. Getting them in the door, making sure that they have a great experience, all of those things. Now, how do you remarket and keep them engaged? Almost 80% of business owners forget about you after you make that first transaction. We get your money, and then it's like, "Oh, cool. Thanks." But what they don't realize is the value in making sure you stay for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And so you should have marketing and ads and email copy and text messages constantly going out periodically to educate, to re-engage them, to keep them engaged with your business, keep them referring, let them become an advocate and leverage those things on the front end. But most people just stop at come in the door, buy the service, and then if you choose not to invest more in the business, it's your fault, not mine. And I think that's where, as business owners, we have to become a little bit less prideful and say, well, it's not that. They just need a little bit more engagement, a little bit more hand holding to get them to the point where they feel like, okay, this is something that I really want to be a part of and want to continue to invest in the long term.
I would think that's where the majority of your income is. It's not from the person that just comes in once and tries and then never comes back again. That's not your primary income.
Yeah, look at e-commerce. If that was the case, no one would ever upsell. No, you wouldn't go to checkout and then you're presented with 3 offers and you're just trying to get to the confirmation. But that's always it. How do you create a bigger ticket long term? How do you create that lifetime value? How do you keep that member there longer? It is just as important as your initial. Now, I would say there's of that 80%, 60% of you are probably not spending enough. I think most of you have too small of a budget and you're not spending enough to really learn and understand what things are effective. I'm not saying you can't shoestring it, but if you think about, I'm going to set up a campaign, walk away and go and check and see if you're using an agency, have them send over the campaign structure. But if you're doing an awareness campaign, top of funnel, there was no real call to action. This is just, hey, we're here. And then you should have a traffic campaign, which is pointing them either to the website, a specific landing page, a lead form, whatever those things are, getting them to engage from there. Then you need a conversion campaign, getting them to book. And then you need a retargeting campaign for those who take action but maybe don't book an appointment. And then you need another retargeting campaign for those who came in but didn't buy a membership. And then you want one that's like long tail for those who are members, but you just want to make sure that you're always in front. Because if you're targeting ads to members, there's a high probability they'll share that post, they'll share that ad, and now their friends are seeing it. And so if even if you're only spending $5 to $7 a day on each of them, you're now at the at least $40, if not more, a day in ad budget. And that's just on social media. We haven't even gone into Google. So really expand it. Say, okay, your biggest expense, with and without, depending on where you are, depending on your rent, if you're brick and mortar, should be marketing, your ad spend. 9 times out of 10, it's not. It is the smallest. People come in, I want to spend 500 a month, or I want to spend 1,100 a month. And now you get the ones that understand it and they're like, hey, I'm going to spend $2, $3, $4,000 a month because I see the vision. I want to get there and I want to get there faster. So like that is the biggest, I think, misconception is that you built this business early on. You have some members and now you can scale back. Because I always hear people say, all right, let's spend heavy up front and then we'll scale back once we hit 100 members. First, if you spent that and you got to 100 members, why in the world would you scale back? But two, at that point, it's not scaling back, it's figuring out how you prioritize where you're marketing and what platforms and double down in those areas. But everyone always wants to make that the savings funnel. This is how we cut our expense. This is how we save, and it will kill your business faster than you grew it. And it'll be 9 times harder because if you've been open 2 years and you scale back, chances are there's 10 other competitors that have come into the market. Take the sauna space right now. I swear to you, every week there's a new brand popping up in the sauna space, in the infrared, the advanced light therapy. And I think that is where there's the originators who are growing really well. But if you don't keep your foot on the gas, someone else is going to come in and they're going to take it and they're going to spend and they're going to come in with heavy budgets. And it's going to be 10 times harder for you to get back in the market, especially on Google, because Google kind of ranks you as you spend over time. When you deplete from there, that's when you now you come back in and like you're the new fish in the pond. Who knows you? We don't know you anymore. You get to start from scratch. So why invest all that up front just to essentially throw it away and have to start over again?
And that's really good. I've never heard you put
Yeah.
it that way. That makes a lot of sense. You're basically throwing away all of the, momentum that you've gotten is gone.
It would be like working out, doing all this stuff to get like super in shape and whatever that is for you, like all of this stuff, and then being like, you know what, I reached my pinnacle. This was my goal, and now I'm just gonna eat donuts for the rest of the year. And expect it to stay. Expect your body to just be like, "Okay, cool. Now I know I'm good." It doesn't work in health, it doesn't work in fitness, it doesn't work in marketing or business acumen, and so that is, like, borderline the definition of insanity, is just thinking that you can continue that on without having what you currently had. Like I said, now I think there are ways that you can be smarter at that stage once you've reached that point of growth. But to be honest, most have not reached that point of growth. And most change things too often. Most are trying to pick and prod and do different things and put money here, put money there. Set it and just trust the process, and it'll get you there over time. It's not going to be tomorrow, but 90 days down the road, 6 months down the road, you'll get there and you'll start to see that growth.
So, with the people that do say, we'll just pick it back up when things get better, and they pause all ads, how does that play out? Is there like a slow fade into business purgatory, or does it just drop off a cliff? What does that look for income wise when they do pause all those ads?
It's pretty instantaneous. Most businesses are not working from a massive like hopper of, hey, we've got 90 days of run. And so like they really are honed in on we get 2 leads a day, 3 leads a day. We are converting 5, 7 appointments a week. When you turn that off, it's going to be an immediate fluctuation. It's going to change really quickly. Now, the first month, you're gonna notice a difference, but as owners, you start to come up with logical reasons because you made this emotional decision, not a data-backed decision. You made an emotional decision to stop so that you could save some money, and then you start to come up with some logical reasons of why revenue's down. It's because of Memorial Day. It's because the Easter Bunny came early. I've heard them all, right? Like, you start to come up with all of these reasons why your revenue's down outside of the fact that you turned off the faucet. 'Cause it couldn't be that. No way it could be that. But then month 2, it gets worse. Month 3, it's worse. And then what happens? Then we get the call, and they're like, "Hey, listen, we had this agency, we were doing it ourselves, and we stopped 3 months ago, and it's really bad, and we're running out of runway, like, our cash flow is not good. We've got 90 days to make it back, or we're gonna have to close up and sell." And that is such a hard place to be with your back against the wall, trying to fight for this visibility that you spent the last year building. You'll notice it pretty instantaneously. Like I said, you'll notice it on paper, but you'll come up with reasons of why it has nothing to do with that, or it has something to do with something else. And then you'll come up with it's because all of these leads were not good and they came in and they just wanted the offer and money is money, dollars are dollars. And so like always look at the data. Most people just don't look at that. They try to make these emotional decisions of like guesswork. This isn't working because I don't see X. I had someone that was saying like, "Oh man, our Saturdays like just aren't booked up. Their week is flooded." But they're complaining. They're like, "Oh, but our Saturdays. I just don't understand why." Who cares? Who cares about Saturdays if your week is there's not even an appointment available hardly. We don't control the weather. We don't control what day people book on. But sometimes you get so honed in and focused on that you miss out that, hey, they're like the business is growing because of these things. And Saturdays at some point will come. If the weekdays are booked up enough, it'll be the only option. Sometimes you just start to pick and prod and try to find reasons of why. Okay, why is this? And it must be because we're spending here or we're not spending here. We had one person that was like, I think I'm going to try radio ads. Like you just start randomly. It wouldn't surprise me if there's someone out there right now or listening to this that's like, I was just thinking about putting an ad in the newspaper. You just start doing random things that don't make any sense. You're just trying to just come up with options other than looking internally and saying, maybe it's me, maybe I just need to be patient, trust the process, trust the experts, and let it run. But I think most people kind of do themselves a disservice by cutting it too soon.
So I think a lot of people could be listening right now thinking, Marcus, all of this sounds great, but I have no money and I have to make budget cuts. What should go before marketing does?
I think that as entrepreneurs and business owners, it's funny. I saw this thing the other day. It was like, I don't fully believe this, but you're not a true entrepreneur until you have to go without a paycheck to pay your staff. There probably is like a little bit of truth to that, somewhat, but I wouldn't maybe go that far. I don't know that anyone necessarily wants to be in that place. But there is something behind it of saying, look at your staff because there's a lot of money to be made on the back end. If you're in a brick and mortar membership model and if you had 80 people come in the door and you've only sold, we just met with a client that had, I think like 122 new clients come in and they sold 7 memberships. There's a problem, right? There's a problem in-house because we can't to a certain extent, we can't control it. So like you have to start looking internally and say, okay, if you were converting at 50%, imagine the revenue difference. You're talking $10,000 of revenue missed because someone can't close the deal. And that's when you have to start looking at, is it because I'm not training well? Sometimes it's the owner themselves that think they're a great salesperson and they're not. But you have to look at that if it's staff and then say, okay, is this money best spent if my front of house can't close? Do I need someone else? And for the solopreneurs who are just like running it themselves, they don't have staff, you have to look at, okay, how much are you taking from the business? And maybe you took too much and you need to cut that back before you cut back your marketing spends, because that will continue to grow you. If you've got a good marketing strategy, that will continue to grow the business and get you hopefully to a point. Now, if everything's just looking bad and it's not going well, you probably need to sit back and say, is this concept going to bring in the amount of revenue that I need it to bring in to make a living? And that's a much deeper conversation for another time. But look, here's the bottom line. If no one knows you exist, no one's buying from you. And if business is slow, marketing isn't the problem, it's the only solution. I think cut anything else before you cut visibility, because the businesses that survive aren't the ones that hide when it gets hard. They're the ones that show up loudly, clearly, and consistently and double down on what they're spending and the message they're putting out. Thanks for tuning in to the Growth Hack Franchise Marketing Unleashed. If this gave you a little push or maybe a slap, you needed to start showing up again, hit follow, drop us a review, and send this to a friend who paused marketing to save money. We'll see you next week.